Alright guys, it's the 8th of January 2025 and that means the 2024 NFL season has officially come to a close with the final games in week 18 done and dusted. That means it is also time for one final NFL power rankings for this year, based on the regular season with all 32 teams participating. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into the standings. At number 32, I guess last and certainly least, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans played the Houston Texans on their final game day, and it proved to be a decent match for the Titans, I believe. Although the best thing about the Titans were their throwback Houston Oilers jerseys, which was very ironically given the fact that they played the current Houston team. And another plus was that they managed to convert their 2-point attempt after a crazy fourth quarter bomb by Will Levis to Martin for a 49-yard touchdown catch. The other good news for the Titans is that they clinched the number 1 draft pick, and it's looking like that means it's over for Levis at QB at the Tennessee Titans. On to number 31, which are the Cleveland Browns. After a couple of decent years, I guess, it's back to butt-awful for the Browns. It all started in 2022 when they signed Deshaun massage therapist Watson to a crazy $230 million contract. And their only hope now moving forward is releasing the guy, but there's still going to be a lot of dead cap for their cap hit in the upcoming seasons. It's been an horrible deal for the Browns, and honestly, in their final game of the year, they also didn't look really promising as they lost to the Ravens. Not a lot to say for the Browns otherwise. Let's head to number 30, which are the New England Patriots. Patriots fans must be missing the holy combination of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, because goddamn they have been awful without those two playing together. Another bad season for the Patriots, and although they can, I guess, find some solace in the fact that they defeated the Buffalo Bills in their final game of the year, it still doesn't really look good overall for this entire season. Ironically, winning their final game of the season caused them to lose the number 1 pick to the Titans and actually made them fall back to 4th pick overall in the end. So I guess after all, they should have just lost the game and tanked the game like they tanked all season. Robert Kraft actually fired Gerard Mayo for the winning game, which seems really a long way from his winning mentality under the Belichick-Brady years. Next team are the New York Giants, who lost their final game of the season to the Eagles. Daniel Jones is just simply not the answer for the New York Giants at quarterback, and the season sealed his fate. Nothing much to add for the Giants. If they had scored any points in the first half of the game against the Eagles, they might have had defeated them in the end, but that's just wishful thinking, I guess. On to the next one, which are the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 28. They are another team that put their faith in a young quarterback, and it just doesn't seem to be paying off. The Jaguars played the Colts, and it actually turned out to be a good division game, which went down to overtime. In the end, Jaguars did lose, but they put up a decent show against the Colts. At number 27, we have the Chicago Bears, whom actually beat their arch nemesis, the Green Bay Packers, in a tight 24-22 game. But it was simply a distraction from the otherwise bad season from the Bears, where their number 1 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft did show some signs of promise, but in the end, their 5-12 record speaks for itself. The Bears need to build a team around Williams if he wants to become a successful quarterback. Up to number 26, which goes to the New York Jets, who decisively beat their division rivals, the Miami Dolphins, in a 32-20 win at the MetLife Stadium in their final game of the season. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers, hinted at possibly playing his last NFL game, which I guess would probably not really be a bad thing, as the combination New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers has just not really performed as well as everyone believed he would have been doing. At least has been a lot worse than he did in Green Bay. So it seems like the Jets will have to rebuild once again for the so manyth time in a row. And unfortunately for the New York Jets fans, Aaron Rodgers did not prove to be the answer to their woes. On to number 25, and those are the most dangerous team in the league, at least off the field, the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, what can I say about this team? They had a 10-game losing streak this year at some point, and I haven't seen any kind of trust or belief in head coach Antonio Pierce after the players supposedly called him to be hired after his interim stint last season. I put them over the other teams because they seem to be increasing their confidence and plays at the end of the season, but that just proved to be both false hope as the Chargers put them back in their place on Sunday. Number 24 goes to New Orleans Saints, who lost their final game of the season to Tampa Bay, and the score was 27-19. It looked like the Saints were going to pull off the upset against the Bucs for a long time, after they played a solid first half of the game, but their second half was just not good, and they only scored a field goal. The Bucs profited and snatched away the win from the Saints, and the Saints don't have a lot of things to look forward to next season. Their quarterback Carr doesn't look like he will be a solid starter for next year, and it also seems like they have to rebuild once again. I mean, let's be honest about the Saints. They haven't been looking promising ever since Sean Payton ditched the franchise for retirement, also known as the Broncos. Number 23 are the Carolina Panthers, who beat the Atlanta Falcons in a very nice game, which ended in 44-38. If you haven't seen the game yet, I would definitely recommend watching back the highlights or even a full game, because it's definitely worth it. Bryce Young somehow managed to play one good match this season at the end to probably just about save his job for next year. Otherwise, Carolina still needs to really focus on building a stronger team, because those prime Cam Newton days have been over for a long time now, and the Panthers just never seem to have been able to recover from that Super Bowl loss against the Denver Broncos. The next team are the number 22 Indianapolis Colts. They narrowly beat Jacksonville, but they still missed the playoffs. And honestly, there's just not much to say about the Colts. Richardson, their quarterback, is not the answer. He's been too inconsistent with injuries and also just inconsistent plays. And I do have to give credit to Joe Flacco, because, man, that guy played good for, I guess, of his career. But still, of course, Joe Flacco is not going to be the answer for the Colts at quarterback. I guess they just have to pick a new one in this year's draft or find a veteran willing to step up for the team. On to the next, which are the Atlanta Falcons at number 21. The Falcons messed up their season right at the beginning by drafting Michael Penix Jr. and signing Kirk Cousins in free agency. Now, Cousins turned out to be a lot worse than in Minnesota, and Penix is just aching to take over his position. He most likely succeeded, but that also means a lot of dead cap for the Falcons in 2025, regardless of if they keep or release Kirk Cousins. Number 20 are the San Francisco 49ers. Although they lost their final game, the 49ers have proven that they are fighters and that they did not give up their season, even though at some point I feel like half their team was injured. For 2025, it all depends on how the Stars recover from those injuries. I still feel like they should stick with Purdy, as he showed he can be a solid starter this year. And I think 49ers fans should not be worried about next year. It's probably going to be once again being the top of the NFC, or at least in the top of the NFC. And things aren't looking that bad for the 49ers. I guess the same goes for number 19, which are the Miami Dolphins. Another team that just did not live up to its expectations due to injuries. Tua Tagovailoa's influence on the team was always a point of scrutiny, but this year it really showed that he is a make or break factor on this team. Even with all those flashy weapons on offense like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, I mean, they just all needed Tua to make it work. And also just run the damn ball more often, Miami. If your starter is out and your backup is not performing, why not just run it with all those options at offense? Number 18 already, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this team, the Cardinals, beat the 49ers 47-24, and that's a really good score for the Arizona Cardinals. Their quarterback, Murray, is just really a solid QB, but I doubt that the Cardinals will get a Super Bowl with this guy. He just doesn't seem consistent, I guess, but he just doesn't have the X factor that guys like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen do have. The Cardinals did improve this year from their last season, but failed to finish with a winning record, and they're also going to miss the playoffs. Maybe next year it's better, but I don't think they will perform much better than this year, to be honest. Then, number 17, the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, they lost their final game to the Washington Commanders, and yes, Mike McCarthy should not be renewed as a head coach, but still, the Cowboys had an okay-ish season. If not for their GM, Jerry Jones, this team might actually become something consistent. They have the weapons for it, and they should just stop having all the drama off the field. America's team are not close to winning a Super Bowl yet in the upcoming years, but they also don't look like they will be awful for those years, so in the end, Dallas will want to win those playoff games again like they did in the 90s. Number 16 are the Seattle Seahawks. They beat their division rivals, the LA Rams, 30-25 in their final game of the season. And these guys just got unlucky by missing out on the playoffs with a 10-win season. I'm not sure why the Seahawks fired their offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, but I'm guessing they need something extra to reach the playoffs, and they just didn't believe the man was the fit for the job. Geno Smith had a great season, and I feel like he is their answer forward for next year. Well, I guess they're probably going to select like a second or third round quarterback that can learn from Smith but doesn't have to perform immediately. Still, Smith, he's not had most flashy NFL career, but these past few years in Seattle, he started to really build himself as a solid quarterback. And I mean, not having the absolute top quarterback in your team also saves a lot of money that can be spent on other positions. So I guess it's really working out for the Seahawks right now with Geno Smith at that position. Number 15 are the Cincinnati Bengals, which, if it weren't for Joe Burrow, this team would be a lot lower on this list. The guy is just amazing. He had a strong season, but his team couldn't perform for him. He's not going to be the MVP, although he's in the discussion for the final draw, but he sure has gained a lot of confidence over the season. The end of the season also showed that the Bengals will be going into the offseason with a lot of momentum that could evoke a strong start to the 2025 season. On to number 14, the Houston Texans. Our first playoff team on the list, and surely the worst of the playoff teams. CJ Stroud just didn't perform as good as last year, but I guess the Texans still managed to get into the playoff picture. I don't see them winning their playoff game against the Chargers, to be honest, but maybe somehow Stroud can show us again why everyone loved him last year. Our next playoff team are the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lost their final game of the season to the Bengals, 19-17. Pittsburgh Steelers started out the season really well, with a lot of winning games, but they finished on a very bad note with 4 losing games in the end of the season. I also don't see them winning against the Ravens in the playoffs, but still the Steelers, excluding their final 4 games of the season, showed us that they are a team to be reckoned with, and heading into next year could be a Super Bowl contender. Number 12 are the Denver Broncos, which are quite the underdogs against the Buffalo Bills. The Broncos did, however, shut out the Kansas City Chiefs, so maybe we're going to see some fireworks in the snow in Buffalo. Sean Payton proves he is still one of the best coaches in American football, and I actually see them pulling off the upset against the Bills. Number 11 are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 4th year in a row that they win the awful NFC South division. It's not like they have a strong record, I guess, outside the NFC South, but they make it work, and it doesn't matter as long as you clinch that division title. Mike Evans, bright spot on this team, showed us once again why he's one of the most consistent receivers in NFL history. He reached his 11th 1,000-yard season of his career, and that, ladies and gentlemen, deserves an applause. Number 10 are the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is back in the NFL, and he showed everyone that he's still a very capable NFL coach. The Chargers wide receiver Quentin Johnson had a great game against the Raiders, catching 13 times for 186 total yards, which was a career high. The Bolts weathered through 2 tough periods in 2024, twice losing 3 and 4 game spans. But they entered the playoffs as a team absolutely capable of taking care of business against a weathered Texan squad on the road. Yes, the offensive line looms are a worry, but LA has more victories away, which are 6, than Houston has home wins, which are just 5. Number 9, the other Los Angeles team, are the Rams. The team started 1-4 and everyone thought they were done for, but they somehow managed to turn their season around and reach the playoffs for the 2nd time in a row. The Rams are looking hot and might be a dark horse team for the NFC title. On to our final 8 teams of the power rankings, which start off with the Green Bay Packers. This season they proved that they don't need Aaron Rodgers at quarterback to be a strong NFC competitor. The only problem for Green Bay is that their quarterback, Jordan Love, left the game after an injury, and they lost their final game against the Bears. Also, the Vikings and the Lions seem stronger than the Packers this year, and both of them are in the playoffs as well. On to number 7, which are the Washington Commanders. I don't have a lot to say about this team. They seem like they are a bunch of NPCs, and somehow they managed 12 wins this year. I see them losing their first game in the playoffs, but, who knows. At 6, we have the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like we're reaching Super Bowl contenders right now. The Ravens have, with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, probably the best RB-QB combo in the NFL, with Lamar most likely taking another MVP title this year. The defense is more of a question mark, and thus the Ravens place 6 on this list, but they could take it all the way to the Super Bowl. 5 are the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they lost quite hopelessly against the Lions. in their final game of the season, but still the Vikings can look back at a very strong season. They somehow turned Sam Darnold back into relevance again. Sam Darnold just turned on his bazookas and showed the NFL that he's not done yet with the NFL, and going back to the countryside is not on his plans yet. 4 are the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley went off the season rushing for more than 2,000 yards. I mean, it's one of the reasons that the Eagles are once again finished really good at 14-3, but I don't know. They just miss sometimes the clinical finishing that other teams that are higher on this list do have. I do think the Eagles have a strong case to make a deep playoff run, and I'm actually hoping that they reach the Super Bowl for a rematch against the Chiefs to have their payback for I guess it was 2022. When they lost to the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. But we'll see. Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, we find them at number 3. I mean, they were just super awful against the Broncos, but it's definitely not panic mode yet. The Chiefs are a strong team and their record speaks for itself. Patrick Mahomes sat out on Sunday, and that just shows that he's the true X factor on this team. Although he doesn't have the stats as much as Jackson, Burrow, or Allen, I do think Mahomes is once again the true MVP of the NFL, especially if he leads them to another Super Bowl. Then number 2, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Buffalo Bills. Everyone just loves the Bills. I do have my doubts about their loss to the Patriots, but just like the Chiefs, they take it easy and rested their starters, including quarterback Josh Allen. I'm rooting for the Bills to win the Super Bowl because they just look as one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, and I guess their fans really deserved it after those 4 losses in the 90s in a row. Afterwards, their awful years in Buffalo where they just got defeated every time by the Patriots in the division and just looked like one of the worst teams in the NFL. And I guess there's just one team left, ladies and gentlemen, and that are the Detroit Lions. Who would have thought that the Lions would be the best team in the NFL 5 years ago? They really have redeemed themselves and are right now, I would say, the best team in the NFL. I'm actually really amazed that the 2016-2008 Lions have found a way out of the abyss and are a playoff contender and even more a Super Bowl contender. Jared Goff has been a very solid quarterback, and head coach Campbell is just truly an amazing human being, and you're just rooting for the guy. Alright, that was it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my list and somehow agree with it. I hope you're going to enjoy the playoffs, and we'll be here next week with an updated power rankings. Thanks and see ya.